many of you have asked this question. That is when to use which technique, right? For that, I had told you three conditions, and those are the conditions that you need to keep in mind. Can someone tell me what were those conditions?
The three conditions included. Number one was if there's not too much difference in the initial investment,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
if there's not too much difference in the amount of return, and the third one I can't recollect. लेकिन इसमें
Okay.
confusion सर मुझे ये थी कि इसमें
Mm-hmm.
difference है तो उस वक्त NPV यूज करते हैं या PI यूज करते हैं इसकी समझ
Percentage.
Okay. Okay. Right. Right. So here we go. Look, there are three conditions that you need to keep in mind. Number one, if there is no difference, right? I'm just writing no here. There's no difference in initial investment. And when I say no difference, that means the difference is not huge, right? If the difference is not very big, in that case, just use NPV, right? NPV. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Unless your focus is per dollar return. Look, unless your focus is per dollar return, apart from that, you would use NPV whenever the difference in investment is not that big. Actually, what is the theme or what is the logic behind this? Look, if there's a project of, let's say, 10,000 million or $10,000 or whatever it is, right? And it is giving you, and there's another project which requires an investment of, let's say, $80,000 or let's say 80 million versus 10 million or something. In this case, the difference in investment is too big, right? So here you may have two focuses, or here you may, think about two things. Number one, the difference in the investment, and second thing is what is the difference in return. But if the difference in two investments are not is not too big, in that case, generally we say that okay, fine, the difference in the investment is not that big. So whichever project is giving us more, let's invest in that. Let's say this is 12,000, right? So here the difference is not too big, correct? So here my focus would be, okay, can I get something extra by investing extra $1,000? Correct? That means my focus here would be the amount of return. If this project is giving me more, I will take that project. And otherwise, if this project is giving me more, I will take this project, right? It is same as it is exactly the same behavior that we generally show while shopping. Like if I'm purchasing something of 10,000 and another, a better quality item, I mean the same item is of 12,000, I would say, okay, let's invest 2,000 extra if I'm getting any extra benefit as well. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Right? So this is first case in which the the difference in investment is not that much, that big. In that case, the NPV would be my preference most of the time. Is it clear? Now,
Yes.
the second scenario is now if the investment in sorry, I'm really sorry, this mouse is not working. Okay. Now, the second scenario says if the difference in investment is too big, then what? In that case, you would be, sorry, hello? Okay. In
So
if
expect that the rate of return must be big as well.
Yeah,
Like you
then
expect.
then you will actually look into two things, like not only the difference in investment, but the difference in return as well. Is it clear? In this case, you will also check the difference in return. Now, if the difference in return is not that big as compared to the difference in investment, in that case, you will use PI. Is it clear?
सर इसमें
Yes,
क्या
sir.
रीजन है?
सर जरा रिपीट कर देंगे सर ये चीज?
Ji, sure, sure. Okay, when the difference in investment is not is too big, In that case, our focus would be like our focus would also be, or it would be our one of the concerns that okay, if I'm spending or investing extra, am I getting extra return as well? Isn't it? Like for example, if one project is asking you, or one project requires investment of $10,000, right? And other project, actually, I'm really sorry, this mouse is really not behaving well today. Okay, so another project that requires an investment of, let's say, 80,000. Now the difference is almost 8 times, isn't it? Here
Yes,
the
sir.
difference in
Yes, sir.
investment. So yeah, right. So here, let's say this project, the first project, it is giving you 12,000 as return. That means NPV is 2,000, right? Your NPV is 2,000 here, correct? Or you are saving 2,000 by investing 10,000, correct?
Yes.
Right. So now,
Yes, sir.
and in the other project, it is, let's say, giving you 83,000 here. Now, do you think uh, in this case, because other project is giving me, extra, or it is giving me more than the first project, you will simply accept it? Like
No,
this
sir.
first project is giving me
Sir,
through 2,000, the other project is giving you 3,000. So what do you think? You'll accept it?
because
No,
No, sir.
there's no
no,
No,
sir.
difference
No,
no.
in
no.
And
the
and
return.
and,
इन्वेस्टमेंट
and
ज्यादा
why
नहीं
not?
है सर.
Yeah, why not? Because the difference in investment is almost 8 times. But look at the difference in return. It is not that big.
Sir,
Is it clear? जी sir.
ये बताएंगे
Output is just 1.5 1.5 times, sir.
Yeah,
That's why we just
1.5.
rejected it.
Exactly. जी sir.
I have a question, sir. सर ये है कि जो PI है, it is basically used to calculate the per dollar return.
Exactly, exactly,
इस
sir.
तरह सर
Exactly.
NPV का क्या है? NPV
NPV,
से क्या
amount
पता
of
चलता है?
return,
लेमैन लैंग्वेज में सर,
amount of return.
सर अमाउंट ऑफ रिटर्न जो एनपीवी आया किसी
Hmm.
अमाउंट का, अगर वो
Mm-hmm.
उससे ज्यादा हुआ, इसका मतलब कि फॉर एग्जांपल वो 12,000 हुआ, 10,000 हमारी पहली वैल्यू थी, तो हमने 2,000 भी सेव 2,000 बाय इन्वेस्टिंग
Exactly,
10,000.
exactly, exactly, exactly. In
And
present
PI
value
is
terms,
to
yeah.
just calculate the per dollar return. So if there's not
Exactly.
big difference between the returns, then we
Hmm.
would go for PI just to
PI,
see,
exactly.
then it will come negative. अगर
Yeah, it will
return
obviously.
investment है.
बिल्कुल ऐसे ही है. This would be the second project would give you a very low return per dollar investment, right?
जी सर.
Right. So look, so that means when difference is big at that time, it becomes our one of the concerns that okay, tell me the difference in return as well. Like when you go for shopping and there's a, let's say, you are purchasing some item, some product, and they are the shopkeeper or the storekeeper, he tells you or she tells you that okay, this, let's say you are purchasing mouse, which is creating me a trouble for me now. So let's say he or she tells me that this mouse would cost you 2,000 and the other mouse would cost you 6,000. So definitely you would be concerned, okay, what's there in that mouse, right? Isn't it? Why it's like 6,000 and why this is 2,000? Tell me the features that are there in 6,000, isn't it? So
Yes, sir.
actually, what you are looking at that time, you are looking at the return that you would get by spending more amount, right? Like 6,000 as compared to 2,000 for purchasing a mouse is too big, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir, it is.
Right.
Yes.
So whenever the difference in investment is large, is huge, at that time you also consider, okay, what about the return, right? Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Right, right. So my
सर और
first
अगर
scenario,
सर और
hmm,
अगर इसमें एंड क्या कहते हैं इन्वेस्टमेंट में भी देयर इज ह्यूज डिफरेंस एंड टू देयर इज ह्यूज डिफरेंस, देन वी गो फॉर एनपीवी, राइट?
then NPV, right? Look, now here, let's start increasing this return. Let's say you're not saving here 3,000. I tell you that you are saving here, let's say 10,000, correct? So you may consider it to some extent, isn't it? Okay, what about 12,000? What about 14,000? So obviously now you would say, okay, now it is making some sense to me that for 10,000, if I invest 10,000, at that time, I'm saving 2,000. But if I invest 80,000, I would save 14,000. Correct? So what you are looking here? Again, the return, again, the NP, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
Right? So when the difference in investment is huge, but the difference in return is not that big, in that case, you will use PI. But if the difference in investment is big and at the same time difference in return is also big, at that time you will use NPV. Is it clear?
Yes, sir, sir, it is clear.
Yes.
सर एक बात पूछनी
Mhm.
थी
जी
सर
जी
जो PV of cash inflows है that is
Mhm.
basically the return that we are talking about.
Yeah, that is written. Like I'm just using very casual the term return very casually, right?
I was actually referring to the assignment that you have given us. उसमें जो
Yeah, yeah.
PV of all cash inflows है वो हमारा
Mhm.
return हुआ और
No, no,
जो
no, 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 no.
outflow
Just consider profit, right? You may consider return as a profit.
and
That is
PV
NPV.
of
That is that.
inflows is also profit, right?
No, that is not profit. That is plain terms are revenue, right?
Right.
That is
Okay.
your revenue. Expense
Sir, the
versus revenue.
income is basically profit, right?
Yeah,
The
it
income that
includes. Yeah, yeah. It is your revenue. Once you'll subtract it from the expense, only then you'll get to know your. That is once
savings.
you'll savings. That once you'll get, subtract that this ICOF from it, only then you will get to know about your return or profit that matter for that matter. So Furkan, just take that term like return is an equivalent to profit. Is it clear?
Yes, sir, it is clear, sir. Just one question. कि जो
Yeah.
uh, if we
Mm-hmm.
get a question in the exam and उसमें कोई एक choose करना हो so I
Mm-hmm.
don't know if this is really an intelligent question. तो क्या NPV और PI calculate करके हम decide करेंगे कि इसमें से कौन सा करना चाहिए था
No,
या
it would look. If you would do that, I will not consider that
yes
as correct,
ये मैंने
right?
सुना था सर क्लास में yes
Yeah, class. Okay, now look at this. Now, if there's a question, let's say if there's a question in which the investment here is 10,000, there's a one project which requires an investment of let's say 10,000, and another other project requires an investment of 60,000, right? Let's
yes
say
sir
these are dollars. Now, in this case, it is your judgment. If you think that the difference in investment is too big, obviously it is a subjective thing, correct?
yes sir yes sir
It is a subjective thing. So you will have to write that, in my opinion, the difference in investment is too big, correct? Therefore, first I will check the difference in return.
yes sir
Then I'll see what to do
तो
next,
उसका
right?
PV माइनस ये कर देंगे तो दिस माइनस
Exactly.
PV कर देंगे तो हमारे पास रिटर्न आ जाएगा
Return आ जाएगा, right? So that would be your NPV actually, right?
वो
That would be
NPV
your
होगा
NPV होगा. Let's say here NPV comes to be 2000 and here NPV comes to be, let's say, 10,000, correct? And now you see, in the first place, you said or you wrote something that, in my opinion, this difference is too big. And now I will check the difference in return. And in your opinion, now you would say that, in my opinion, the return is also big. Therefore, I would make my decision based on NPV,
Okay, so now I've got it. Actually,
right?
if the difference in the initial investment is negligible, then I
Yeah,
just simply go for PI.
NPV.
No,
Oh, no,
I
no,
just
no,
Sir,
no,
can we
no.
say this thing that our first approach will always be NPV, and then
Yeah,
once we are done
very right.
with NPV?
Very right,
Ye-
ma'am. Very
yes,
right.
sir. If
Look,
the difference is negligible, I go for NPV simply.
NPV, yeah, good. And if difference is big, in that case, again, you will have to first check the NPV and then you would decide what to do next. If the difference in return is also big, there's no need to calculate PI. But if, let's say, the difference in return here is, let's say, 4,000, like this is 4,000 and this is 2,000. Here, you would say that if the difference in initial investment is too big, But in my opinion, the difference in return is not that big. Therefore, NPV may give a misleading result here. So the better option in this case is PI. Only at this step you will use PI.
Okay,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
And
Got it.
just to confirm, if there's a conflict between NPV and PI, then we'll go for NPV once again, right?
No, no, that would depend upon your preference. Look, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Look, if you are concerned about, in this case, the difference in, if you calculate PI for both of these, can you check what is PI for 12,000 divided by 10,000? 1.2 in first case,
Yes,
right?
sir.
Okay, so in PI
Yes, sir.
is 1.2 here, and in other case, I'm using this 10,000 here, right? So in other case, PI is 70,000 divided by 60,000. So what it would be? 70 divided by 60.
1.16.
1.16, right? So here, if you see sorry, 1.16, the PI of second project is lesser, right?
Yes, sir.
However, however, if I consider that, okay, fine, I cannot expect that the increase in, the investment, the required investment would exactly match or would be in the same proportion as the increase in return. In that case, I'm preferring PI. Sorry, I'm preferring NPV. Is it clear?
Okay. Yes, sir. It's clear. Thank you.
Right? So, look, it's all subjective in the exam if such questions come. Like if it is there, obviously you have to write the reasons. Like for example, it might be a scenario in which, let's say, now let's try to have an example of all of the scenarios. This is first scenario. The initial investment is 10,000 and other project requires an initial investment of 12,000. Correct? I'm sorry.
Use NPV.
Right. In this case, there's no doubt that you would right away go for NPV.
NPV.
Correct? Okay. So now there's another case in which the initial investment is 10,000 again. Okay, oh, initial investment is in 10,000 again, and here it's 80,000.
Then I would want to see the value of
Now we'll
return.
see the rate of return first.
No, first you would
Yes.
see the amount of return. Look, if this is the case, when there's a difference, then there are two branches of it. Like, then there are two possibilities. The return is also big, or the return is not that big. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Ma'am? Okay, so if now I will check what about the return, and for that again I have to check the NPV, right? And let's say the NPV, the difference in NPV or difference in return is not that big, then what you would do?
PI.
We'll go for
Then
PI.
PI. Okay. And the third scenario is that, okay, it's similar to the second one with one difference only, that, okay, initial investment is again 10,000 for this project, again 80,000 for this project, but this time NPV, when I calculated NPV at this step, NPV, the difference in NPV is also big.
Then
So
So
we
I don't
go
want
for
to see.
NPV.
then we will go
You
for
would not use
NPV.
PI,
Yeah,
right,
we'll
sir?
not consider
Yeah,
PI.
and I will, yeah. So in two cases, you are just restricting to NPV. And like in first case, obviously, there's no need to check PI at all. But in second case, rather, sorry, in third scenario, if the difference is NPV is again, big, then again, there's no need to check PI. However, if the difference in initial investment
Sorry,
is
आपकी
big,
आवाज break हो गई थी.
right? Okay, I repeat it again. Look, if the difference in initial investment is not big, in that case, the only choice you have is NPV, right?
Right.
Okay. Now, second thing, if the difference in initial investment is big, then you will check what is the difference in NPV, correct? So you calculated NPV and you found that the difference in NPV is not that big. In this case, PI is a better choice.
Right, sir.
Okay, but if the difference in NPV is again big, in that case, I will use NPV as a decision criteria. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay, but what is there at the back of it? What is the underlying reason or logic? Whenever we spend something extra, we are concerned about that are we getting extra as well? Is it clear?
जी जी sir.
Yes.
Right? So when you don't spend that much extra, in this case, difference is negligible. And again, this is a subjective decision. So it is quite possible that some of you, if this question comes in assignment or in quiz or in paper, I ask you or I give you a scenario. For some, even this 10,000 versus 80,000 difference might not be that big, right? But in this case, they have to write it. That like as per my understanding, the difference in investment is not that big, right? So I will decide on the basis of NPV. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay sir.
Yes, sir.
Oh, right. So this was one of the questions that I got. Okay, another important point that you need to keep in mind. Some of you forwarded me or some messages in which there was a PI of let's say 1 point, if I'm not wrong, 0.09, and the other PI was 1.02 or 0.3 or something. Like let's say make it 0.4, right? And that person, that scholar actually rounded off both of these values and said that this is equivalent to 1. Don't do that.
No, no, no. Yes. Okay.
Right? Don't do that. In case of indexes, like this is giving you 109 rupees in return of 100 rupees invested, right? And this is
Yeah.
giving you for every 100 rupees invested, this is giving you 104 rupees. So please
Right.
don't round off, right? So please don't round off, right?
Yeah.
So, okay,
सर
so
वो
this was zero.
Sir, again, is
सर
it
वो
not a
ये
business
वाली
or
वैल्यू थी कि वो 0.9 कुछ करके आंसर आ रहा था जो जिसको राउंड ऑफ करके जो है वो 1 किया था बिकॉज दूसरी वैल्यू भी जो थी वो पीआई की वो भी 0.88 आ रही थी
In
उस
that,
क्वेश्चन में
नहीं नहीं, जो मुझे मिला था ना, एक्चुअली मैंने आप वाला फिर शायद मैसेज देखे ही नहीं. ओके, 0.8, राइट?
यस सर और एक थी 0.9 समथिंग आ रही थी जिसको
राइट.
राउंड ऑफ करके हम 1 करके पीआई को वो कर रहे थे
नहीं 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 नहीं, you cannot. Like, this is just if you are not good at numbers, simply multiply it by 100. It would tell you 80%, right? So that means if you spend 100 rupees, it is giving you a return of 80. That means you are going in a loss of 20 rupees for every 100 rupees invested. And this is giving you a return of 90. Again, this is, less than 1. Is it clear? And
So,
both of these projects
यस
would
सर
not be acceptable. Both of these projects would not be acceptable at all.
Ajay sir, can we ask a question?
Yeah, sure, sure, sir.
Ajay sir, actually, sorry, थोड़े से नालायक student हैं we are.
No,
As
sir,
we were trying to find,
please go ahead. I
अच्छा,
can hear you.
actually we were trying to solve the question from the time value of money
Mm-hmm.
जो आपने उसमें दिया हुआ है, 2A
Mm-hmm.
solved में, right?
Sir.
The question was about how many years will it take for $136,000 to grow to
Okay.
$468,000
Right,
if
right,
it is
right.
invested in an account with an annual
Got it.
interest rate of 8%. अच्छा
Okay,
simple
now,
जी एफपी का फॉर्मूला लगेगा इस पे
nahi sir, हाँ, लगेगा वही, but look, this thing I elaborated in class, like maybe not in your class, maybe, I'm forgetting, but look, I gave you all those questions for practice, right? For
या
exam, make it clear that if whatever has been given to you in slides, that is enough. The scope of your course is only restricted to those slides. However, now let me explain what that question says, right? Let's say we have a formula of future value, that
इज
is
इक्वल
principal amount
Yeah,
right?
into
Into 1 plus
one
I raised
R into
Right.
end.
raised to power n, right? So now this is simple mathematics or basic algebra rules uh, that I can play with, right?
So
Obviously, I'll
one
not play with.
I
So,
this per n is for compound interest, but for
sorry?
simple interest,
Hmm. Yeah, for simple, it's I into n, right? For simple
yes.
interest, it's I into n.
And here
Look,
the question is about the simple interest, I believe, because
okay,
compound
okay,
interest is not mentioned.
that is even easier. That is even easier, right? So here, you know, whatever, whether it is simple or compound, look, I can generate questions, like any one of you even can generate question to your students. I give you the value of principal amount, I
Yes,
give you the value of I, and I give you a value of n, and I ask you to calculate the future value. Correct?
yes,
So
yes,
this is the basic level question. The second thing could be I give you the value, future value, I give you the principal amount, right? And I give you the interest rate as well, but I don't give you n, and I ask you to find n, right? So this is a missing variable that you can find using
yes.
basic mathematic rules, right?
Right, sir. The problem we are facing right now is the answer
Hmm.
we are getting actually from using the simple formula
Hmm.
is the difference one as you mentioned in the solution document, because the
Sir, I
solution
believe
Hmm.
you're asking the same questions. I believe I asked you in the daytime as well, uh, and you just said that all other
Okay, okay.
formulas used in those questions they're not necessary, right?
Yeah, yeah, those are not at all necessary, right? Those are not at all necessary. Look, please make one thing
Sir,
clear in your
we will
minds. Okay, okay,
take
let's
log
remember.
in the
Haha, yeah, in this case we'll take log, right? Okay, but please remember, I'm not here to check your concepts of basic mathematics.
Mm,
I'm not playing with the tricks here. I will definitely in the finals, and I will tell you how I will. That I will first, like I'll teach you that thing in the class first, and only then I'll ask. If I
mm,
haven't taught you anything in the class, just never think that I'll give you it in the paper, right? Please make it clear.
right.
Okay, look. But what is the theme? Why I'm restricting it to only future value? You are doing a degree of MS project management, and in that, we just want to know one thing, that how projects are selected. And since this course is related to cost and finance, so obviously we would be concerned about money matters, right? We would be concerned about the cost and returns and profit and loss and everything, or benefit to cost, cost benefit analysis, blah blah blah. Correct?
Right.
So my purpose only is to, if you know one thing, that whenever we invest an amount, that is the principal amount,
Yes,
it would have some future value. That's it. And this
yes,
future value would depend on two factors. One, your interest rate, and second, the number of periods during which this interest is calculated. If you
perfect,
know
sir.
this, yeah, if you know this concept, that is good enough for a project management professional. Similarly, if I tell you something that you will get an amount in future, that is future value, and I ask you to calculate its present worth or present value, in that case, again, there's a formula for that. And again, you
Yep.
would say that it would depend on the discount rate as well as the number of years after which I will get.
Mm.
So if you know this concept, this is good enough for you. Is it clear?
Right, sir. Right. Actually, but
Right.
the answers mentioned in the sheet is
Good.
making
Okay.
us confused actually. That's
Okay,
why we
just
are
just
asking.
don't even attempt those, right?
Okay,
Those
okay,
are like, when
fine.
when I shared those documents with you guys, I clearly mentioned it, that look, these are for your practice if you want to explore. I mean, I just can't discourage if someone is, struggling more, or if someone wants to learn something, right? So as far as paper is concerned, just don't worry. I mean, if I haven't taught
Perfect,
you
sir.
anything in the class, it's not there in the exam.
Done, sir. Done. Thank you very much.
I
Oh,
have a question from
yes, sir.
payback period.
Yes,
The
sir.
payback period में you taught us how to calculate the number
Mm-hmm.
section,
Mm-hmm.
and
No.
there is this slide जिसमें कहते हैं कि how would you calculate number of days.
Mm-hmm.
तो सर थोड़ी confusion थी कि उससे मल्टीप्लाई कर लेते हैं तो अगर नंबर ऑफ डेज भी निकालना है, अगर 0.1 52 आ जाता है तो फिर उसको डेज में किस तरह कन्वर्ट
30 से मल्टीप्लाई करना,
किससे?
30 से 30 just multiplied by 30.
सर मेंशन है,
तो 6
अगर
months का तो
मेंशन है क्वेश्चन में कि डेज में निकालें तब करेंगे ना, अदरवाइज तो नहीं करेंगे
Yes,
उसको.
yes. No need for that. Yeah. Let's say this is let's solve it, right? Let's take an hypothetical example. Let's say my payback period came to be 2.37 years, right? Now I ask you to please calculate this payback period in years and months. Clear?
सर
Now
ईयर
in
तो आ
this
गया, ईयर मंथ्स एंड डेज,
सुनो
ईयर
सुनो
तो
सुनो
2
सुनो
हो
ना
गया।
सुनो, हाँ सर वही कर रहा हूँ. Okay, so how you would calculate years and months? 2 years and then what? 0.37 multiplied by 12. Why 12?
Because
Why
there are
12?
12 months in a year.
12 months in a year, right?
Per month.
So, okay, can someone tell me what it would be?
4.44.
Now, 4.44 months, right? So, 2 years and 4.44 months. Now, if I ask you, okay, 4 complete months are there, but this 0.44 is indicating what? Days?
Yes.
Some days of fifth month. So, how many days are there in 1 month? 0.44 multiplied by 30,
Oh,
right? That's it. So
13.2.
okay, 3.2 days,
13.2.
13.2 days, yes. Okay, now if I ask you what about hours, then okay,
Into
so
60.
sir, I know it was
0.
1 year.
Yeah, so 0.2 multiplied by 24 hours a day, right? So that is the logic. You only need to understand the logic, right? Okay, that's it. Now let me sum up a few more points that is related to which technique you need to use. Look, number one, let's start with the payback period. If the return, sorry, if your focus is time of return, how quickly you will get back your investment. So which technique you would use?
Payback period, sir.
Payback period, right? So although payback period is a bad choice in general because it ignores the time value of money, right? That is the main drawback of this technique. But still, it's easy to explain to investors, to managers, or to business owners who don't have enough knowledge of financial principles, advanced financial principles. So it's better that let's talk in simple terms, and that is the payback period. Correct? Now, second thing, if your focus is amount of return, that means how much profit you would be able to earn. In that case, if amount is the concern, in that case, NPV is a better choice, right? And if if your focus is return per dollar invested, right? Or in other words, if your focus is benefit to cost ratio, like what benefit I would get against the any cost. In this case, the PI is a better choice. Correct? Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Right. Now let's talk about IRR. Look, IRR for you guys, I mean, for a project manager professional, again, the simple thing that you need to know is IRR, its behavior or its uh, on the back end how things work, it's almost similar to the NPV, right? I have two choices, or there are two ways we can make decisions. Number one, simply calculate NPV of all the projects, right? NPV of all the projects at your required rate of return, and then check which project is better. Is it clear? Right?
Yes, sir.
So now this is one way of selecting the project. But the underlying logic again is at NPV zero, you know, you will not get any profit, any loss. And great, if NPV is greater than zero, it means you are earning some profit. And if NPV is negative, it means you are in loss. Correct? This is what we studied. Another way of doing or working on things in the same way is I establish a required rate of return for me in the organization, and then I calculate IRR of all the projects, right? So whichever, then I'll compare this IRR with my required rate of return. So whichever would be, whichever project would give me higher IRR, I'll select that. Actually, IRR tells you the same thing. That is, this is a percentage at which NPV is zero. So if I compare that thing with my required rate of return, it would give me an idea that, okay, at my required rate of return, will I be having a positive NPV or will I be having a negative NPV? Correct? Now let me give you an example of it. Let's say if my required rate of return is, I'm sorry, if my required rate of return is, let's say, 14%, right? In this case, I calculate an IRR of one project, and I'm sorry, this is IRR, and this came to be, let's say, 12%. What does it mean now? Shall I select this project or reject this project?
Reject it,
Reject. But why?
Reject.
Why?
because the required rate is higher and we are getting lower income or
Okay.
a lower rate of return.
But if there are other
Look,
projects that have even lower IRR, then you would go with this one.
no, 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 no. Look, what does a lower IRR means? Look, what I'm saying here is at 12%, what is my NPV? Zero? Correct?
Yes,
IRR 12% means at this rate, NPV is zero, right? So
Yes, sir.
if I would further increase the rate, what do you think? NPV would decrease or
become
increase?
negative.
It would
Decrease.
decrease.
it would decrease and go negative, right? So actually, at my required rate of return, the NPV would be negative. So that means it is giving me a loss. Is it clear?
Right.
Right. So now let's say instead of 12%, if I calculated my, sorry, I calculated my IRR and it came to be 17%. Now what does it mean? At 17%, NPV is zero. So if I decrease the rate to my required rate of return, so by decreasing the rate, what do you think? What effect NPV would have?
Positive
NPV will
NPV.
increase.
It would increase, and that means it would be a positive NPV, right? Is it clear? Because we
Right,
know
sir.
that when we decrease the rate, the NPV it increases, correct? So this is underlying logic, but as I told you in the class, that even if you don't, in the exam, because of time pressure, sometimes you may not be able to interpret this that clearly. In that case, simply remember, if your IRR is greater than required rate of return, accept it. If your IRR is lesser than required rate of return, reject it. Is it clear?
Right, sir.
Right. So now most of the times, both NPV and IRR, they give you the same result because the underlying logic is same, right? It's all about positive NPV, negative NPV. Correct? Is it clear?
Right.
Yes.
Right. So most of the time, the results or findings or recommendation of both the NPV and IRR would be the same. That means if let me write it here. That means if IRR is recommending project B, the NPV would also recommend the project B. Is it clear? However, if you check the NPVs, however, if it is not the case, and if you check the NPV is recommending you project B, but IRR is recommending you project A. In this case, which project to choose?
Project A.
Project B.
Project
NPV.
A.
Project B. In this case,
B.
NPV has a higher, has a has an edge over IRR. Correct? In this case, NPV has an edge over IRR. In this case only, you will
सर
prefer
एक बार को
NPV.
रिपीट कर दें.
सर
Okay.
रिपीट
Okay.
करिए.
जी मैं कर रहा हूँ. If there's a difference, like I'm telling you that most of the time NPV and IRR would recommend the same project. Is it clear? Is this point clear? That means if NPV is recommending you that project B is better, if you'll check the IRR, you'll find that the IRR would also say that B is better. Correct? Whether you use NPV or you calculate or you use IRR, in both cases you would find that B is a better choice. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Right.
sir.
Right. But sometimes it happens that NPV may, recommend one project, but IRR may recommend another project. Like NPV, if you'll calculate the NPV, you would find that B is better. But if you would calculate IRR, you would find that A is better. In such scenarios, you will ignore the findings or recommendation of IRR and you would actually rely on the findings or recommendation of NPV. That means you will select project B. Correct?
Okay, okay.
Now there's a question in your assignment and about the same. Can you see that? Or have you seen it earlier? There's a question in assignment in which, you know, you're given with an NPV, like NPV of two projects, and you're also given IRR of two projects, right? So
Question
if,
two.
Usually it is NPV IRR conflict problem, right?
Yes, sir.
yeah,
Questions were
exactly.
two-party.
Yeah. So
So NPV
IRR,
would be preferred in that case.
yeah, so IRR recommending one project and NPV is according to NPV, other project is better. So in this case, you will not consider the findings of IRR, rather you would choose whichever project has a better positive NPV. I don't remember which project that exactly is. But this is NPV IRR conflict, where NPV tells you or recommends you one project and IRR recommends you another one. Clear? In this case, go with the NPV. Correct?
So by the
Okay,
way,
sir.
what is the logic? What is the
Okay.
logic? Because
Okay.
if
Right.
IRR is recommending some project, okay,
No,
this is something beyond our RRR.
actually, if you see, there could be multiple IR. Do you remember that graph?
Yeah.
Right. So if you see at till certain level or till certain percentage or till certain rate of return, you would find that NPV of one project is greater, right? And uh, above that percentage, the NPV of other project becomes greater, right? So in such scenarios, actually, IRR, may mislead you a bit. Clear? Actually, it requires again an explanation, and please do remind me. We may start our ninth lecture with this discussion if you want, right? But I intentionally, I showed you that slide, but I excluded it because it would become difficult for many of you. Right. Okay. So that was all about the project selection methods. Now, if you have any question, G.
There was a question of IRR. We are given cost of capital that is 16%.
Again,
Does
that is
that mean this?
required rate of return. Yeah, required rate of return. Right. Actually, it has got multiple names, and you know, in exam, I will only tell you the name that we have been using. Just don't worry.
Sir.
Okay. Anything else?
Sir, you mentioned that there would be a long question that would take up most of our time. So, can we do a numerical for that? Just going over what would be required and what would be the steps be?
Okay. Obviously the which question it could be. What do you
Uh,
think?
IRR, you said.
Oh, yeah, it would be IRR, obviously.
But I don't see how it would take up that much time. But I don't know. Maybe I haven't started studying yet. But
No,
if we
you just try
Hmm,
it first, right? If you find
mhm,
any problem, please do let me know. I'll arrange another session, right?
right, okay.
Okay. Right. If you feel any problem, just feel free.
Sir, just one question. Basically, your the cheating policy that you have. Sir, can
Mm.
we share the assignment once we do it in the group before submitting it to you?
No, no, no,
Is it
sir.
or
Look,
there's something
look.
wrong with it so we can
Yes,
discuss
yes.
it in the
They
group?
look. No, no, sir. Please don't do that. Look, I'm here. I'm teaching you whatever. Like I'm to the point. I'm answering your questions, even if you are asking something about the assignment, right? Isn't it? If
Right.
I'm teaching you, I'm available. And now, even if you want to teach your friends, that's fine for me. But your copy of your solution should be restricted to you only. That's it. Teach everyone. Even you can just teach them by solving those questions on a paper. But then that person
They would
would
have to
solve
do
it.
it themselves, right?
Yes, yes. That's it.
Okay,
Gee,
just
any other
one
questions?
one
Sure, sure,
last
sure.
question.
Mm-hmm.
So it's about payback period, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes,
आप
sir.
clearly मेंशन किया हुआ है कि अगर कांस्टेंट आपके रिटर्न्स आ रहे हैं तो देयर इज
Mm-hmm.
नो नीड टू बिल्ड अ टेबल. आप वो जस्ट
Exactly.
फार्मूला लगा इन्वेस्टमेंट डिवाइडेड बाय जो भी रिटर्न्स है तो आपका
Exactly.
नंबर ऑफ ईयर लगाएंगे. सो इन द
Exactly.
पेपर मतलब लाजमी तो नहीं है फिर भी हम टेबल बनाए मतलब ठीक है
नहीं
बस
नहीं
यहाँ
सर,
पे
नहीं नहीं नहीं, बिल्कुल नहीं सर, जहाँ पे फॉर्मूला लगता है वहाँ पे द प्रेफरेंस वुड बी फॉर्मूला, राइट?
और इफ समवन डिड इट विद द टेबल फॉर
Okay,
एग्जांपल
fine. Yeah, so he or she would just waste the time. I won't
ओके
mind.
फाइन.
I won't mind, right? But a lot of time would be wasted in that.
सर एक क्वेश्चन ये था कि मैं क्वेश्चन सॉल्व कर रही थी तो टेबल में मैंने 22% का गैप लिया था वो लेकिन वहाँ पे 22% अवेलेबल नहीं था टेबल में वहाँ पे 20% के बाद 24% था एंड देन 25%. तो
Okay.
पेपर में हम सारे गिवन होंगे.
Yeah, look, it is not mandatory, obviously, to take a jump of exactly 6%, right? If it is available, just use that. If it is not available, let's say you calculated something at 15%, right? And the next value in the table that is there is 20%. 21% is not there. So just use that. However, if the value is given to you, in that case, I would strongly recommend to take a jump of 6%. Is it clear?
Yes sir, thank you.
Just don't worry, I'll not surprise you in like I don't intend, I mean, giving you any surprises in the paper. So just don't worry. Okay, G. Any other question?
अगर अभी फील हो रहा है कि आईआरआर वाला लेक्चर फिर से पड़ेगा तो अगर
Yeah, sure, sure. If you feel like all of you, if you feel any problem, like if you feel it difficult to solve the IRR, just let me know. We can have a dedicated session for IRR. Correct? Okay, Ji. Thank you so much. It was my off day, and I just wanted you to give your time. Actually, initially I had a plan to have